On the first day of senior year, I walked into class and found my childhood fiancé had given my seat, and my place beside him, to a smiling new transfer girl. He said, "I thought you wouldn't mind." So I gave her the seat. And over the next few weeks I gave her everything else he was supposed to protect. Until the day I took it all back without raising my voice. The first day of senior year always carried a certain weight. Expectations, ambitions, and unspoken lines that had already been drawn years ago. I arrived 15 minutes early the same way I had every year and walked into classroom 3B like I owned it. Because in a way I did. My seat, the window one in the far back corner, was already mine. Everyone knew that. Everyone respected it. Everyone but her. I paused mid-step, my gaze settling on the unfamiliar girl sitting exactly where I always sat. She was leaning over the desk, flipping through a pink notebook with cartoon stickers on it. Her long black hair was tied into a loose braid, and her backpack still had the factory creases on it. A cheap one. The kind they sell in bulk to county schools. She looked up, blinking at me with wide, almost apologetic eyes. And then I heard it. The voice that was too familiar to miss. "Elena," Caleb's warm tone cut through the buzzing chatter. He appeared just behind her, holding 2 iced coffees, one of which he handed to her before even noticing the look on my face. Or maybe he noticed and pretended not to. We were early and she didn't have a seat assigned yet. "Thought you wouldn't mind her using yours." He said it casually. As if it wasn't mine by default. As if it hadn't been mine for 2 years. I looked at him. Then at her. The new girl, her name tag read Hazel Lynn, gave me a small smile, a practiced one. "Sorry," she said softly, "I didn't know it was taken." She didn't move. Not even a twitch. I held her gaze, then glanced at the iced coffee in her hand, still sweating with condensation, and back at Caleb who looked far too relaxed about the entire thing. "It's fine," I said coolly, my voice clipped and calm. "There's another seat open." I walked to the other side of the classroom and took the spare desk by the supply cabinet. It smelled faintly of old markers and paint. Nothing like the fresh air and sunlight I was used to from my rightful place. As I sat, the entire room quieted. I could feel the eyes on me. The whispers would start later, they always did. When the bell rang, Caleb didn't come over. Instead, he stayed beside Hazel, showing her how to set up the school's online portal. She laughed too loudly at something he said. So fake. So obvious. So fast. At lunch, the cafeteria was packed. I carried my tray, minimalist salad, a few shrimp dumplings, jasmine tea, to my usual table by the second window. It was occupied. Hazel again. This time with her back turned to me and Caleb sitting across from her, resting his chin on his palm like he didn't have a care in the world. Her lunch tray had heart-shaped fruit cutouts. His bento had 2 sets of chopsticks. I didn't say a word. I turned, walked across the room and sat by myself at the furthest table in the corner. A few classmates hesitated like they wanted to join, then thought better of it. I didn't mind. I wasn't in the mood to entertain. I'd only taken 2 bites when my phone vibrated. A ping from one of the class group chats. "Hazel Lynn. First day at a new school, sparkling heart, can't believe I got to sit in the best seat and meet the kindest person here, pleading face, thank you Caleb for the coffee. #grateful #first friend. Attached. A picture of her in my seat, resting her chin on her hand with Caleb's coffee cup in frame. I stared at the post for a moment. Then closed the app. Blocked her. And turned off my phone. The next morning I arrived earlier than usual. I wasn't going to be ambushed again. But Hazel was already there. Sitting in the same seat. She didn't even pretend to be surprised this time. "Oh," she said brightly, "good morning Elena. I figured you'd be here early again. I left you the desk near the fan this time, it's quieter." She smiled like she was doing me a favor. I didn't respond. I walked past her, past Caleb, who had the audacity to nod at me like we were still fine, and sat in the same seat I'd taken yesterday near the supply cabinet. The same marker-scented corner. That day in biology I answered every question before anyone else could open their mouth. I made sure Hazel didn't even get a chance to lift her hand. After school I stayed behind to review reports for my internship. As the rest of the students filed out, I heard soft footsteps behind me. "Elena," Caleb's voice. Hesitant. I didn't look up. He sat beside me anyway. "I know you're upset." Silence. "She's just new, you know? Doesn't know how things work yet. She's not trying to challenge you." So I said nothing. Caleb ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. You're making this weird, Elena. Come on. It's just a seat. You're not really upset over something that petty, right? I finally looked up at him. My voice was calm. Detached. No. I'm upset that you thought I'd be the type of person who wouldn't mind. He blinked. It's a chair. No, I said coldly. It was a boundary. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I stood up, packing my things. As I reached the door, I paused and turned slightly. Watch her carefully, Caleb. That smile of hers? It's practiced. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. Another post from Hazel. It's been 2 days and I already feel like I belong. Smiling face with hearts. Caleb says this school has the best students. And I totally agree. Bouquet. Attached. A photo of Caleb handing her a water bottle during PE class. Her caption sticker. Bestie vibes revolving hearts. There was only one thing on her face that wasn't fake. The look in her eyes. Victory. The next morning I wore my best pressed uniform. A designer watch. New. And my mother's sapphire pendant. I walked into class with my chin high. Hazel greeted me with a sing-song, "Hi Elena." I gave her a tight smile. Then turned to the class president. Can I borrow a desk? Mine seems to be under new ownership. The room went still. Hazel froze mid-sip from her strawberry milk. Caleb's face shifted just slightly. The president stammered a yes and helped me move a desk right beside the window on the opposite side. It wasn't my old seat. It was better. From there I could see everything. And everyone. As class settled in, Hazel whispered something to Caleb and giggled behind her palm. He laughed. And then glanced my way. Our eyes locked for half a second. And in that split second I made a promise to myself. If he wanted her to have my seat, he could give her everything else too. Because I wouldn't be asking for it back. By the third day no one called it Elena's seat anymore. They called it Hazel's corner. I heard it in whispers as I walked past. Careless murmurs dropped by juniors, background noise that had once belonged to me. My seat, my view, my silence. Now hers. Caleb. He sat beside her every morning like that had always been the arrangement. I didn't say a word. Silence, after all, is a weapon sharper than anything words could carve. But Hazel was learning fast. Too fast. She didn't ask permission to enter the circle. She simply walked in and smiled like she'd never needed it. With her thrifted cardigans and perfect little curtsies. A poor girl's version of class, endearing to the blind, manipulative to those who watched closely. Caleb? He watched nothing. Or maybe he watched everything and just didn't care. At lunch I placed my tray down at the edge of the senior courtyard. A private spot near the garden wall, overlooked mostly. But peaceful. I had only taken 2 bites when I saw the flash of pink, Hazel's ridiculous bubblegum backpack, heading in my direction. She was with 2 girls from the volleyball team. Her new fans. Oh no, did you see the latest capsule drop? One of them was saying. Those limited edition tote bags? Only 50 made. Hazel giggled, looping an arm around the girls. They're cute. I think Elena has one, right? The cream leather one with gold corners. I didn't move. He was behind me now. I could hear the shuffle of her steps approaching. Elena. Hazel chirped sweetly. That's such a gorgeous bag. Is it really the Paris exclusive? I gave her a sideways glance. It is. She leaned closer, inspecting the tote like it was on sale. I've never seen something like that up close, she breathed, then added sheepishly, Can I? Before I could say a word, her hand reached forward. The apple juice in her other hand tipped, barely, subtly but intentionally, just enough to splash across the white leather. A slow, spreading amber stain. A hush fell around the table. Oh no, Hazel gasped theatrically. I'm so sorry. My hand slipped. I looked down at the damage. The stain bled into the stitching like a bruise. Then I looked up. And I smiled. Come. Devastating. Don't worry, I said gently. Not everyone is raised to value what they don't own. Hazel blinked, lips parting slightly. Just then Caleb arrived. Perfect timing as always. He saw the juice, saw the bag and frowned. Whoa. Did something happen? Hazel immediately turned to him, eyes wide with guilt. I messed up. Elena's bag. She said not to worry. I cut in, looking directly at Caleb. He looked between us, puzzled. It's just a bag, right? He said with a shrug. I'll get her another. Landed like a slap. He said it without a flicker of awareness. Just casual dismissal. I rose slowly, brushing my skirt smooth, ignoring the whispers behind me. Thank you, I said evenly. But I don't need you to replace anything for me, Caleb. He blinked, confused. Elena, I didn't mean. I know exactly what you meant. And I walked away. I didn't look back. That night I took a knife to the bag's handles, clean, precise cuts, and dropped it in the trash. It had already been ruined the moment he said, "It's just a bag." But Hazel wasn't done yet. No, she knew exactly when to strike. At 8:14 p.m. my phone pinged. Hazel Lynn posted a story. Ribbon first friend. First everything 2 hearts. Image. Caleb crouched down, tying the laces on her white sneakers, while she stood with one hand brushing her hair back, looking at him like he was a Disney prince. I stared at the photo. Not at them. At the expression on his face. Soft. Unbothered. Even content. I blocked her. Then I blocked Caleb. Quietly. Without drama. Without rage. Because rage was for people who still hoped. And I didn't. The next morning I walked into class 5 minutes late. On purpose. Everyone had already settled. Hazel, radiant in a pale peach cardigan, was seated comfortably in what they now called hers. Caleb was showing her something on his phone. They didn't look up. Not until I slid into my newly arranged seat by the window, the one I had moved myself across the room from them with a better view and cleaner sunlight. I unpacked my laptop. Took out my notes. Opened my planner. Caleb looked over. I didn't meet his eyes. By midweek, Hazel's transformation was complete. She moved like she belonged and everyone else started believing it too. She clung to Caleb's side like a ribbon. Innocent, decorative, inoffensive. Her voice always just loud enough to be heard. She never directly challenged me. But she didn't have to. Because now everyone compared us. Thursday during PE we were split into relay teams. Hazel, of course, ended up on Caleb's team. She laughed too hard at his jokes. Claimed her shoelaces kept coming undone. And sure enough, when it was her turn, she dropped into a crouch and fumbled with the knot. Elena, the coach called, switch lanes with Hazel. Hazel turned to me, eyes wide and innocent. Sorry, I'm just not fast. I didn't want to slow down Caleb's team. I looked at the coach. I'm fine where I am. The coach blinked, uncertain. Hazel smiled awkwardly. I just didn't want to be a burden. Caleb from the other lane called out, "It's all right. She'll switch." I walked past him without responding. But as I passed, I said quietly, "You're making a habit of deciding things for me." He didn't answer. Because deep down he knew I was right. Later that evening, I returned to the senior lounge to retrieve a forgotten book. The place was mostly empty except for one corner. Hazel and Caleb again. He was holding a drink. He was leaning in. I watched from the doorway for a moment. Hazel caught my reflection in the glass pane and paused, just long enough to make sure I saw what happened next. She placed a small white flower behind Caleb's ear. He didn't stop her. He laughed. That was enough. That night I pulled up my phone and opened my notes. Then I typed one sentence. Let her sit there then. I closed it. Deleted every photo I had with Caleb. And went to sleep with nothing but silence in my chest. My birthday fell on a Monday. Not that I expected anyone to remember. The only person who ever did was Caleb. Or used to. The morning began with the usual routine. Students trickling in, sleepy chatter filling the hallways. I arrived early, hair pulled into a sleek twist, uniform crisp, with a silver pen tucked into my front pocket. A quiet nod to my mother's tradition of birthday writing. A small bouquet of white tulips sat on my desk. Anonymous. No card. I didn't need one. Only 2 people knew tulips were my favorite. And Caleb had long stopped acting like he remembered details. By mid-morning, the classroom buzzed with an energy I hadn't invited. Word had spread. Someone had seen Caleb at the front gate carrying a box. A gift box. And standing beside him, beaming like she'd already won, was Hazel. My desk mate leaned over, whispering, "Do you think he's planning something?" I didn't reply. Because whatever he was planning, it wouldn't matter. Not anymore. He showed up 5 minutes into second period, breathless, casual, unbothered. Hazel stood beside him, smiling as if she owned the place. Everyone turned to look. She was wearing a necklace, thin gold chain, delicate charm in the shape of a crescent moon. And it stopped me. Not because it was beautiful, but because I had seen that sketch before. A year ago in Caleb's old notebook. We were sitting under the tree near the music hall, the sun falling through leaves onto his pages as he doodled. "I'll make this for you one day," he'd said, pointing to the crescent. "Because you don't orbit anyone. You shine on your own." It was the only design he'd ever said was inspired by me. And now it was around her neck. He walked straight to me holding a small pink box in his hand. "Happy birthday," he said, setting it on my desk like he hadn't just gutted the memory of our past. Hazel stepped forward quickly. "I told Caleb it would look even better on you, Elena. But he said I wore it like I was born to." She touched the charm lightly. "I hope you don't mind," she added with a sugary smile. "It was just a sketch, and I thought it was too pretty to go unused." My hands were still. My expression unchanged. "Of course," I said coolly. "Why let sentimentality get in the way of aesthetics?" Hazel blinked, unsure if it was a compliment. It wasn't. I didn't open the box. Instead, I placed it inside my bag, pulled out my notes, and began copying from the board. Everyone watched. But no one spoke. Not even Caleb. Lunch came. I skipped the cafeteria and went to the student council room. It was vacant, quiet. I opened the box there. Inside, a pendant identical to the one Hazel wore. Not a second version. A duplicate. He hadn't made a design for me. He had replicated the one he gave her. The charm glinted under the light. Meaningless. I picked up my phone. Typed a message. Loudspeaker senior year charity auction announcement. To celebrate Elena Moore's 18th birthday, she will be donating a custom gold pendant necklace, designed by a top-tier independent artist, for our school's scholarship fundraiser. Bid starts tomorrow. Funds go to incoming students in need. Class 3B rep team. By the time I returned to class, the buzz had started. "Did you see the auction post? Elena donated her birthday gift? Wait. Isn't that the same necklace Hazel's wearing?" Hazel looked up as I entered, her smile uncertain for the first time in days. Caleb's brows furrowed. "Elena," he called quietly, "can we talk?" I paused by my seat. "In private." He nodded. We stepped into the hallway. The door clicked shut behind us. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then he sighed. "What was that?" "What was what?" I said evenly. "The auction. Why make it public?" "You made the gift public," I replied. "I just returned the favor." His jaw tensed. "You didn't even give me a chance to explain." "Explain what?" "That you gave her something you designed for me." He hesitated. "She saw the sketch in my folder," he said finally. "Said it was beautiful. I didn't think it'd matter. I was going to give you one too." "That's the problem, Caleb," I said, voice cold. "You didn't think." He looked away, running a hand through his hair. "Elena, it's not what it looks like." "It looks like you made a choice," I cut in. "And now you're upset that I didn't sit quietly with it." He looked back at me, frustrated. "I didn't choose her." "No," I said softly. "You just kept handing her pieces of me." We stood in silence. He finally said, "I didn't mean to hurt you." I tilted my head. "But you did." He stepped forward. "Let me fix it." I stepped back. "I already did." And I walked back into the classroom, leaving him alone in the hallway. That afternoon Hazel didn't speak. She kept her eyes down, fingers fiddling with the necklace around her throat like it had begun to burn her. Caleb didn't sit beside her. He didn't sit beside me either. By the end of the day, my necklace had already received 5 bids, all from students who had never once looked me in the eye before. Popularity wasn't the goal. Precision was. And I had delivered. In the evening, I received a message from a blocked contact. "Caleb Winters. Why are you doing this?" I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my calendar and marked the day with a small note. He gave her the moon. So I gave her the stage. Hazel didn't wear the necklace the next day. She replaced it with a pale ribbon around her neck, tied just tight enough to draw attention and loose enough to feign modesty. But there was nothing modest about her anymore. She walked 2 steps behind Caleb as we filed into class, laughing at something he said, brushing invisible dust from his shoulder. When he stopped to grab a textbook from his bag, she reached in for him. Small movements. Public displays. Not affection. Possession. He didn't stop her. In economics, we were paired for a group debate. The topic: legacy versus innovation. Which drives long-term success? Fitting. Our group included Caleb, Hazel, me, and two others too cautious to do more than watch. We drew lots. I was assigned legacy. Hazel stood, brushing imaginary lint from her cardigan sleeve, and flashed a tight-lipped smile. "Oh, that's a surprise," she said sweetly. "I always thought Elena was more progressive." The jab was featherlight, but sharp enough for the room to pause. I stood slowly, eyes locking on hers. Legacy is the spine that holds any structure upright. Innovation without roots is just chaos in disguise. A few heads turned. Hazel tilted hers, all wide-eyed innocence. "But doesn't that mean you're clinging to the past? What's wrong with letting go?" I smiled. Letting go is wise. Unless you're handing the reins to someone who still needs guidance on how to spell reins. A ripple of laughter cut through the tension. Hazel flushed. Caleb glanced at her, then at me. No one spoke again until the teacher gave the score. 9.5 for legacy. 6.5 for innovation. Hazel sat down stiffly. Her hands clenched her notebook. I leaned back in my chair and didn't look her way again. He posted the selfie that night. Red eyes. Damp lashes. Glossy lips twisted into a sad pout. I didn't know standing up for myself would cost me this much. Maybe I'm not strong enough for this school after all. Broken heart. #trying my best. The photo was cropped tightly enough to hide that she was wearing full makeup. The lighting was perfect. The emotion wasn't. But people ate it up anyway. Supportive comments poured in. "You're doing great, babe. Ignore the haters. They're just jealous." Some people peaked too early. Then came the worst one. At Caleb.Winters reposted the story to his own feed. Caption: "Some people never grow up." No name. But no one needed one. By the next morning the air had changed. A few classmates looked away when I entered. Someone whispered when I walked past the lockers. In literature, my assigned partner switched seats. Interesting. They thought I was going to fight fire with fire. They didn't know me at all. During study period I made one phone call. "Daphne," I said. "Elena Moore," the voice on the other end drawled. "Haven't heard from you since student council elections. You need dirt or disaster." "Just a reminder," I said. "The handwriting profiles from last year's leadership camp. You still have them?" She snorted. "Of course I do. Why?" "I'd like Caleb Winter's summary posted anonymously in the class feed. By 4 p.m. sharp." Daphne laughed. "You want it quiet or dramatic?" "Clinical," I said. "Cold enough to sting. But professional enough to make them second-guess what they believe." "You always had the cleanest knives," she replied. "Consider it done." At 3:58 the notification pinged. At Student Botter Sources uploaded a photo. Student profile. Leadership Camp 2022. Confidential notes. Subject: CW. Traits: loyal but easily swayed. Prioritizes external approval. Lacks consistent moral boundaries. Strong under guidance. Weak in ambiguity. Recommendation: avoid high-pressure roles without oversight. No names. But everyone knew. By the time we returned to class, the whispers had turned again. He reposted that crying pic. But now this? Is that really what his file said? Guess we know who's being manipulated. Even the teacher hesitated before calling on Caleb during discussion. The confidence he wore like a blazer started to wrinkle. Hazel sat stiffly beside him, lips pressed into a thin line. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I just raised my hand and answered every question with clarity and grace. After school, as I gathered my books, Caleb approached my desk. He looked unsure. The kind of unsure that people like him hated feeling. "Elena," he said quietly. I didn't look up. He waited. "I didn't write that post to hurt you. You just didn't think it would matter if it did," I replied, eyes still on my planner. He was silent. I glanced up. "You're mistaking whose side you're on, Caleb." He blinked. "I didn't take sides. That's the problem," I said softly. "She did. And so did I." He opened his mouth again, but I had already turned away. That evening Hazel didn't post anything. But someone else did. Jay from Class 3A. People love to play the victim when they're the ones holding the knife. Just saying. No one tagged anyone. No one had to. When I got home, my grandfather had set a plate of almond shortbread on my desk. He didn't say anything, just smiled at me the way he always did when I played quietly after winning a war. I bit into one and opened my notebook. At the top I wrote, "Power doesn't come from noise. It comes from proof." I underlined it once. Then added, "Tomorrow I take the seat back, not just the chair. Throne." He entered the room like he'd never left. The second Jayden Reed stepped through the doors of Class 3B, everything stilled, not with fear but recognition. Like the universe straightened its posture. Black jacket over the shoulders of his uniform, backpack slung low, tall frame blocking half the doorway. He didn't smile. Just looked around slowly as if reading the class like an open page. And then his eyes landed on me. "Still by the window, I see." It wasn't a question. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Jayden grinned. All lazy amusement, no effort wasted. Hazel blinked, clearly thrown. She sat frozen in what was now my old seat, hand halfway through applying lip balm. Caleb looked up from his notebook, his body tensing just enough for me to notice. "Jay?" he said almost cautiously. "Hey Winters," Jayden replied without warmth. And that was it. A single look, a dry greeting, and everyone knew where he stood. With me. Like always. Jayden and I had grown up circling each other. Parallel, brilliant, competitive. He left for London in the middle of sophomore year when his parents remarried and relocated. No warning, no goodbyes. Just one message. "When I come back, you better not have let anyone dethrone you." And now he was back. And watching Hazel like she was a badly staged performance. He walked across the room without waiting for permission and stopped in front of Hazel. "Mind moving?" he asked pleasantly, motioning to her seat. "My seat. This one doesn't belong to you." Hazel blinked. "Sorry." He tilted his head slightly. "You heard me. I'd like you to get up." She laughed awkwardly. "I don't think this seat is assigned. I've been sitting here for over a week." Jayden's tone didn't change. "Yes, and it's been annoying everyone." Hazel turned to Caleb for support. "Caleb." Jayden stepped between them smoothly. Not talking to him. The room froze. Caleb opened his mouth. Closed it again. Hazel looked helpless. "But, where would I sit?" Jayden motioned casually to the far corner. "Anywhere else. Just not here." She didn't move. Until I stood up from my current seat, across the room near the supply shelf, and slung my bag over one shoulder. I said nothing as I walked past Hazel. But I paused beside Jayden. And that was all it took. Hazel stood up, flustered, and grabbed her things. She didn't look at anyone as she moved across the room. Jayden pulled out my chair for me and sat beside it like he'd been there all year. Caleb's jaw tightened, eyes flickering between us. The teacher walked in seconds later, breaking the tension like a blade. But the damage was done. Hazel sat quietly that entire period. Caleb didn't speak once. Jayden. He cracked jokes under his breath and passed me notes like we were back in freshman year. How did he screw this up so badly? Wait, is she actually wearing 3 shades of pink right now? I left for 1 year and everyone forgot the seating chart. I didn't smile. But I didn't stop him either. At lunch I usually ate alone. That day Jayden grabbed 2 trays from the counter and said, "We're eating outside." We sat beneath the sycamore tree behind the gym. The same one where Caleb once swore I was his son, his center of gravity. That felt like a ghost story now. Jayden unwrapped his sandwich. "You look thinner. You look taller." I was already taller. "You were likey. Now you're tolerable." He laughed. "And you're still savage." There was a silence, not awkward, just familiar. He watched me. "So what happened?" I didn't pretend not to understand. I gave him the condensed version. Hazel. The seat. The necklace. The post. The betrayal. Jayden whistled low. "He really gave your design to another girl?" "She wore it before I even opened the box." "Wow." He leaned back on his elbows. "Winters is even dumber than I thought." I shrugged. "I'm not angry." Jayden turned his head slightly, studying me. "No. You're worse." He meant it as a compliment. That afternoon the class was restless. Everyone sensed the shift. Hazel didn't make jokes. Caleb didn't hover near her desk. Instead he watched Jayden and me from across the room like we were a fire he didn't know how to put out. Jayden spent the entire study period leaning close, scribbling commentary over my notes in fine blue ink. You still dot your I's with surgical precision. So dramatic. Tell me the truth. Do you miss me or just missed winning next to me? I underlined the word neither in red and slid the notebook back. He grinned. You've gotten colder. I glanced at him. You say that like it's bad. He paused, then said softly, it's not. It suits you. When the final bell rang, Jayden stood first and held out his hand dramatically. Come on. Walk with me. I raised an eyebrow. Let's give them something to whisper about. I took it. Caleb stood from his seat as if to intercept us but didn't move fast enough. He watched as Jayden and I walked out of the room together, side by side, silent, calm. The hallway fell quiet as we passed. Jayden leaned closer, his tone low. You want me to stir the pot or keep playing loyal knight? Just walk, I murmured. I'll do both, he said easily. And I believed him. From the far end of the hallway, Hazel stood by the lockers, pretending to check her messages. She looked up and met my eyes just as we passed. I didn't stop. I didn't blink. But I saw it, the fear. The realization. Jayden wasn't someone she could manipulate. Because Jayden didn't want my seat. He only wanted to see me take it back. Jayden and I didn't become inseparable. We became inevitable. It started with a class project, the senior gala proposal. Something we both volunteered for before remembering how irritating the other could be. The teacher paired us anyway. I'll handle the sponsor deck, I said. Jayden raised an eyebrow. What do I get? Lighting, budget projections, and avoiding small talk. He grinned. Your love language really is efficiency. And somehow it worked. In between mock-ups and vendor calls, we started meeting in the library, the rooftop garden, even the darkroom no one used anymore. We weren't just collaborating. We were rebalancing the hierarchy. And everyone noticed. Especially Hazel. She tried to claw her way back with glitter pens and tragic eyes. Jayden, she cooed once in the hallway, I heard you used to be close with Elena. I hope I'm not stepping on any toes. You're not that heavy, Jayden replied dryly. No toes bruised. Hazel's laugh froze. I passed by without breaking stride. Then came the rumors. She's using him to make Caleb jealous. They were spotted off campus together. Holding hands. Did you see her touching his sleeve in the library? All laughable. All planted. Hazel wasn't subtle, she never had been. She told one person and let it spread like ink in water. I didn't deny it. I didn't need to. Because Jayden and I never did anything they claimed. But the fact that they believed we could, that was power. Took Caleb exactly 5 days to snap. He cornered Jayden behind the gym after PE, breath ragged from the sprint, expression wild with frustration. What are you doing with her? Jayden blinked slowly. Helping with the gala. You know, the thing you forgot to show up for twice. Caleb stepped forward. Don't play dumb. Elena and I. We're engaged, Jayden cut in. Were. Caleb's fists clenched. She hasn't broken it off. It's still. Jayden tilted his head. If you didn't want to lose her, you shouldn't have given her away piece by piece. Caleb looked like he'd been punched. Jayden walked off without another word. Hazel misread the silence again. By Friday she was practically attached to Caleb's side, introducing herself as his support system in front of others. I think we're getting closer, she told one of the juniors in a voice loud enough to echo. Caleb didn't correct her. But he didn't smile either. He just looked tired. And more importantly, he looked over at me. A lot. The night of the gala arrived. It was held in the school's grand hall, marble floors, glass chandeliers, and walls lined with framed accolades. The guest list included faculty, alumni, board members, and students who actually owned cufflinks. I wore a backless navy velvet dress. My hair was swept to one side. Diamond studs. Lip color just shy of threatening. Jayden, beside me in a black tailored suit, looked like a secret people would pay to keep. You look dangerous, he said. You look easy to trust. Perfect match, then. Hazel showed up in blush pink as always, but this time in a gown that was a little too bridal for a school gala. Caleb escorted her in with a stiff arm and dead eyes. They posed for pictures. People clapped. But when they walked past our table, Hazel paused and gave me a look. A blend of triumph and desperation. She'd mistaken stage lights for power again. That was her problem. He thought being seen was the same as being chosen. At 8:43 p.m. I stepped onto the gala stage to announce the final item on the auction list. A mentorship dinner with the board chair of Lancaster Enterprises, my grandfather. The bidding started, paddles flew and laughter echoed. Then I cleared my throat. "One last announcement," I said, voice poised, mic steady. The room quieted. "In light of recent events and after discussions with my family, I will be officially voiding the engagement contract between the Moore and Winters families." Gasps. Chairs creaked. Someone dropped a glass. I continued, unfazed. "This decision is final. Please update all school records accordingly." I stepped down before applause could begin. There wasn't any. Just stunned silence. Hazel swayed where she stood. Then, predictably, fainted. Caleb caught her out of reflex, but his eyes never left me. Not once. Jayden handed me a glass of champagne. "Well," he said, "you really know how to ruin a party." I smiled. Didn't know it was theirs to begin with. Later, outside under the string lights, Caleb found me alone. "Elena." I turned. He stood under the shadows of the terrace, one hand in his pocket, the other still shaking. "You really did it." I nodded. His voice cracked. "Why?" I stared at him. "Because you handed her everything you were supposed to protect." "I didn't mean to." "You didn't stop it either." He stepped forward. "What if I asked for another chance?" I tilted my head. "Would you offer the same to someone who traded your name for applause?" His lips parted. No sound came. "I didn't think so." Jayden appeared at my side. "Everything all right?" Caleb looked between us. He saw something he couldn't undo. "Elena," he said softly, "please don't make this permanent." I didn't answer. I just turned to Jayden and said, "I'm hungry." He offered his arm. "Midnight noodles? Extra chili." And we walked away. Behind us, Hazel had been helped to the nurse's station. Caleb remained standing beneath the terrace lights, surrounded by the sound of laughter he no longer belonged to. Caleb stopped me after homeroom the following Monday. The hallway was unusually quiet. Morning announcements had just ended and most students had filed off to class. He waited until I closed my locker, then stepped into view. His eyes weren't angry anymore. Just desperate. "Elena," he began, voice low. "Why him?" I tilted my head. "Why not him?" His brows furrowed. "You never looked at anyone else before. That was when I thought you knew how to hold what mattered." "I didn't mean to hurt you." "But you did," I said evenly. "Over and over. And then expected me to wait until you changed your mind." Caleb flinched like I'd struck him. I didn't realize you'd move on so fast." I gave him a sad smile. "I didn't move fast. I just didn't stay stuck." He reached out as if to touch my arm. I stepped back one pace clean. "You gave up your rights when you assumed I'd always be here," I said quietly. "But you were wrong. Again." He opened his mouth but nothing came out. And maybe that was the first honest thing he'd done all year. By third period, Hazel had caught wind of the conversation. And by lunch she had rewritten it in her own image. "Elena's only after him now because Caleb's choosing me," she told anyone within earshot. "She thinks it's a game, like she can just win by switching guys. She saw how close Caleb and I got after the gala and she couldn't take it," Hazel added, voice trembling just enough to draw sympathy. "She's always wanted everything." No one responded. Not the way she wanted them to. Too much had happened. Too many people had seen behind the curtain. Still, she wasn't done. She waited until Jayden and I entered the cafeteria, together as always, then stood dramatically near the serving line and snapped, loud enough to silence the room. "You think you've won?" she spat. Jayden froze beside me. "You took everything from me and now you're trying to take him back too?" Hazel's voice cracked. "You didn't even want him until I had him." Jayden raised a brow. "Excuse me," I said, my voice flat. Hazel's eyes were wet, glistening, and deliberate. "You're doing this just to spite me. Admit it. You never wanted him. You just didn't want me to have him." Whispers began again, some shocked, some amused. Jayden stepped forward, calm and effortless. "Hazel." She turned toward him, hopeful. "You're embarrassing yourself." The words hit harder than a slap. Hazel's expression shattered. But Jayden didn't stop. "She never took anything from you," he continued. "You inserted yourself." She walked away. Hazel tried to speak but he added, "The truth is Elena doesn't steal." He pulled out his phone, opened Instagram, tapped post, and walked over to stand beside me as the notifications buzzed. The photo was simple. I was asleep, hair messy, head tucked onto a law textbook, pen still in hand. Beside me, Jaden's hand was holding mine gently. He wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking at me. Caption read, "She doesn't steal. She chooses." By the time Hazel refreshed her feed, the post had already hit over 300 likes. By the time she read the comments, no one cared what she had to say anymore. Caleb didn't confront me that day. He just stared. Like he was watching something unravel that he hadn't even realized was knotted. When the final bell rang, I caught him leaning against the railing near the side staircase, half shadowed, half lost. He didn't look up as I passed. He just said, "I miss who we used to be." I paused. Only for a second. Then said, "I don't." And kept walking. Jayden was waiting for me outside the gates. Hands in his pockets. Tie undone. Hair slightly ruffled like it always got when he was thinking too hard and brushing it back too little. "You okay?" he asked. "Are you?" "I was worried you'd slap her." I laughed just once. Tempting. He smiled. "You didn't. That's why it worked." We walked in silence for a few blocks. Then he said softly, "Do you regret anything?" I thought about it. The seat. The necklace. The posts. The noise. "No," I said. "I regret staying quiet for so long. That's it." Jayden glanced at me, something unreadable in his gaze. Then he asked, "Do you think, if things had been different, you would have picked me first?" I stopped. Turned toward him. I never got the chance to pick before. He took that in, slowly, carefully. Then nodded. "And now?" "Now," I said, "I'm not waiting to be picked either." Jayden's eyes flickered. A smile, yes, but gentler this time. "I'll keep showing up anyway," he said. "I know." We kept walking. Side by side. Later that night, Hazel posted a goodbye message on her story. A photo of her suitcase. A shot of the train station. "Thanks for everything. Some stories just aren't meant to be mine." No one replied. No one reposted. By morning, her account was gone. Caleb didn't come to school for 2 days. When he did return, he sat in the corner of the classroom like a placeholder in his own story. No one spoke to him. He didn't speak to me. He didn't need to. I had already said everything I needed to say. And this time he was the one watching someone else walk away. The classroom was filled with sunlight that morning. Golden heavy final. The kind that filtered through glass like a memory you weren't ready to let go of. Desks were being pushed aside, banners strung across the board. "Congratulations, Class 3B. Someone had written it in gold marker with too many exclamation points. And on the board next to it in neater script. "Top academic honors. Elena Moore. Best senior project. Jayden Reed." I read it once. Then closed my eyes. Not because I was overwhelmed. But because I wasn't. This time I felt everything. Cleanly. And I was still standing. Jayden walked in 10 minutes late. Unapologetically, of course. Holding 2 iced coffees like we weren't about to walk across a stage in front of hundreds of people. "Still like oat milk, right?" he asked, sliding one across the table. "You remembered." "I forget nothing." He grinned. "Especially not where I'm sitting today." He gestured toward the window seat. "My seat. Our seat now." I raised an eyebrow. Confident. Earned. I didn't argue. Caleb arrived quietly. He sat near the back, alone. No Hazel. No entourage. Just the same uniform he'd always worn, except today it looked more like a costume than a statement. Our eyes met once. Not intentionally. He looked away first. The graduation ceremony moved in flashes. Applause, speeches, the sound of shuffled programs and camera shutters. People I barely knew hugged me like they'd always been close. I let them. It didn't cost me anything anymore. When they called my name for top honors, I walked the stage in silence. No nervousness. No guilt. Just a calm, steady stride. Because this time I knew I belonged here. Not because someone gave me permission. Because I never needed it. Jayden followed after, hands in his pockets, smirk intact. He won Best Project for his AI-based community initiative. Of course he did. He winked when he passed me coming down from the stage. Still think you're smarter, he whispered. I am, I whispered back. After the ceremony, people spilled out into the garden where the school's stone fountain had been dressed in silk streamers and congratulatory signs. I stood near the edge of the courtyard, sipping Jayden's oat milk coffee, watching parents and teachers pose with their favorites. He found me 5 minutes later, straightened his collar, waved off 2 girls trying to talk to him, then leaned against the railing beside me. This, he said, was a good ending. I nodded. It was. He looked at me. But this time not the way Caleb used to, not like he was searching for something behind my silence. Jayden looked at me like I was the answer. This seat beside you, he said softly. I'm not giving it up. I turned to him, the corner of my mouth lifting. Good. He paused. Then, not just here. After this too. Wherever you go. My throat caught just slightly. You're serious? Only about the things that matter. I didn't say anything. But I didn't look away. From the distance, Caleb stood near the edge of the crowd. He wasn't holding flowers. He wasn't holding anything. Just staring. At what he once had. At what he gave away. At what never came back. He didn't move toward me. And for the first time I didn't wonder if he would. Because it didn't matter anymore. Later that evening, after the noise died and the gowns were folded away, I opened Instagram. For the first time in weeks I posted a photo. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't curated. Just a picture Jayden had taken of me, seated at the window again. Hair messy, graduation cap on the desk, sunlight pouring in. He'd captured it without telling me. Caption. It was never about who got the seat. It was always about who stayed. Hazel never came back. Caleb graduated. Quietly. No party. No post. Jayden and I? We left for university together. Different majors, same city. We still sat beside each other. Sometimes at coffee shops. Sometimes at debates. Sometimes in silence. And every time someone asked how it started, I'd smile faintly and say, with a desk. But not the one you think. The end.